President-elect Donald Trump made a triumphant return to Madison Square Garden less than 3 weeks after his first rally. He was accompanied by his crew, Elon Musk, Speaker Mike Johnson, RFK Jr., and a few other politicos. Now, Trump's first UFC appearance since winning the election yielded thunderous applause and this. Love Trump's moves. Now, following the event, UFC President Dana White had some raging words for MSM and politicians. White said this at the UFC 309 press conference.
So I've had this philosophy for the last 5 years that traditional media is dead, and it doesn't hold the influence that it used to hold. The two most hated people in this world right now are the media and the politicians. Nobody trusts them, and nobody believes them. And the true influence right now is with these kids that are on the internet, and they're called influencers. So I've been creating relationships with these people over the last, like I said, 4 or 5 years. And this election was won on the internet. Fucking
Dana.
The way Power Slap was built is the way this election was won. And the Hispanic vote was incredibly powerful. The male black vote. And the youth all came out.
Mainstream media is struggling to survive. A new study from Pew Research reveals that news influencers played a big part in influencing voters in the 2024 election. The report finds 1 in 5 Americans say they regularly get news from influencers on social media. 85% of the so-called news influencers are found on X, 50% on Instagram, 44% on YouTube. The majority, 63%, are men, and most, 77%, have no affiliation or background with a news organization. This was also a point I saw made by Puck News this morning. A bunch of polling data that does not look great for Democrats, that most voters do approve of the Trump transition so far. The GOP is more popular at the moment than the Democratic Party, and that podcasts did absolutely boost Trump. Only 12% of voters are willing to pay for news.
Look, there are 2 separate strands to this argument, I think. One is traditional media struggling and or in crisis? And it is certainly struggling. I don't think there's really any dispute about that.
It's not dead, but it's in crisis.
Exactly. And there has been a breakdown of trust over a long period of time, decades, in fact, that has contributed to that. There are other issues that you and I have talked about previously with the business model. I suppose the question or the caveat that I would have around this is when influencers or the general dispersal of news information is discussed, it often tends to be discussed in a very positive way. It's like, oh, fantastic, these people are arising to supplant the old decrepit giants of traditional media. And is what is coming better or not? Or do people like Dana White like it because those people can be more easily sort of more supportive of whatever they believe in? I think that there is a real danger that if you surrender any sense of gatekeepers, yes, you let fresh voices in, but you also let a lot of crap and nonsense in, and that's, I think, the danger in that.
That is the danger, that now the dominance of the mainstream media is broken, and so anyone can call themselves a journalist or a news person. I always try to tell other people in the media that I think often mainstream media people take a dismissive view of what influencers or whatever content creators. Sorry, we're no better than them.
No,
we are doing the exact same.
We are all content.
We are all descendants of the bard and the minstrel,
Yes.
the person who strums his lyre in the court of whoever and entertains the king and tries not to get his
Trump moves while you're playing your lyre.
Exactly.
Let's see how that works out.
That's all we are. Is we're telling stories to entertain people. Yeah. We are no better than jugglers. Now we try to tell the truth and entertain people with actual news and information and a little bit of comedy and color. I think my favorite, independent content creator type people actually are people who used to be journalists or used to work for mainstream journalistic publications and are now on their own and that are better to have been unleashed. The people I read most reliably, like I read everything they write, is Nate Silver, Matt Iglesias, some Matt Taibbi, Glenn Greenwald, people who came from institutions and are now mostly on Substack. The decline in institutions has meant that people who are good journalists, I think, often don't want to suffer from brand association with a large place that say the Washington Post, which employs a lot of great and talented journalists, but also employs people, I think, totally bought into the Russian narrative about Hunter Biden and all sorts of other, Jen Rubin, Philip Bump, to name names, people I don't respect very much, and maybe other people don't want to be tarnished by associates. They also employ Megan McArdle, who I really like. It's all over the place, and you used to just take the good with the bad, but now there's so much option, you can just choose to take the good. But also the younger content creator generation is doing some really interesting and innovative things with news presentation, with video. We can always learn a lot from them. I was learning a lot from Jessica Burbank when we had her on because she just totally came out of a TikTok world to do really interesting economic news delivery and comedy, and she does costumes and all that sort of thing. It's cool.
She never induced you to wear a costume or dance for any of her TikToks, as far as I'm aware.
I think over on Breaking Point's, Sagar and Crystal, or Sagar at least, wears a costume on Halloween Day. I do like that tradition.
Making some contribution to it. Look, I think, a lot of things that we talk about in the media can actually be boiled down very simply. One could make the point I'm about to make about Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski, who we were talking about earlier. Just a lot depends on whether you approach the thing with basic intellectual honesty or not. And that can be somebody on TikTok, it can be somebody on MSNBC, or anywhere in between. And some people, I think, fall down in that because either some of them are creating intentional misinformation, but also a lot of people are just playing the role of propagandists, really, which we really do try to avoid here, to get sucked into that thing of just reading off the party line on one thing or another. And I think that one of the optimistic things that I see in media and in the audience for media is an increasing market for some level of intellectual honesty rather than those people who are simply serving as mouthpieces for one political party. Right?
Well, and to platform debate and disagreement. This is something obviously we do on Rising, given the format of the show. It's something organizations like the Free Press, Barry Weiss's thing, are doing. They've done events where they have a big topic and they invite people on different sides to debate. I attended one where my bosses at Reason magazine, the editors there, a libertarian publication, argued with someone from a socialist magazine about whether the capitalism is good, that kind of thing. And people really seem to respond well to just platforming actual debate, which you don't get a lot of debate anymore on both mainstream liberal media and conservative media. It's just, when I flip channels, oftentimes I'm like, oh, this is so boring. Oh my God, there is no one here to say, but wait, wouldn't the other side say blah? And then you go the other way and oh my God, this is propaganda too. And it's really boring and exhausting.
It is, and I think that trend has picked up pace quite markedly. I have lived in the US for 20 years, thereabouts, and it used to be the case that there was more of that even in mainstream places.
Yes.
So, when one can knock or not knock the late Alan Combs, who used to be on with Sean Hannity and Fox News Primetime, supplying a liberal voice of a kind. MSNBC used to have, Joe Scarborough used to be a conservative for a start, and had a show on MSNBC. Tucker Carlson had a show on MSNBC, which people don't really recall much anymore. So that sort of interplay between ideas, I think, has fallen off in mainstream places, but thankfully there has been more of a flowering of it in independent.
Yes, we're independent media that happens to be attached to a large corporate mainstream media institution.
We'll just take the praise for being independent and don't pay with the Trump dancing. I'm not doing a Trump dance under any circumstances. You have to draw the line.
It's all me. Good to have principles. That does it for us today on Rising. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss any of our content. And for those of you who like to listen while on the go, we're now available anywhere you listen to podcasts. And we'll see you back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.